All right, we are live. Hello, everybody,
Right.
and welcome to another Legends of Lightning workshop. We're continuing our Lightning on Web series this week. Today we've got Escaped Cat, or Hannes, who's going to be presenting getting starting with Lightning on the web. So he's going to be touching on a few sort of specs, such as LNURL, WebLN, and much more. But I'll let you do all of the explaining, Hannes.
Yes.
Yeah, really excited for this one. But maybe you can just start off by giving a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Right. Sure. So yeah, I'm a front-end developer at Albi. I'm working there since 4 months or so, a little bit earlier as a contributor. And basically this is I would consider this as a presentation for myself 4 months ago, because lots of things were new to me. First of all, I didn't have much of a React background. I did more Vue. It was my first time working on a browser extension, and it was also my first time using actually Lightning in the web. So lots of these things, I might have used them before, and then even later on during the job, during the development, I worked with this kind of stuff. But to actually grasp it and actually understand the details took me quite some time. And so I tried to put the information, the details in this kind of presentation, and might take you along and open up a browser and do some stuff with you together to see like how this is practically working and what I'm dealing with day to day, basically. And I hope this helps you, and it would have helped me before, I guess. So this is pretty much what I'm going to talk about.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you said, a lot of developers who are kind of in your position maybe a month ago, looking to get
Right.
started building on Lightning, but not really
Right.
sure where to start.
Right.
So yeah, look, I'll leave it up to you. But I just noticed your screen has actually disappeared, so you might want to
Oh,
sort of
did
reshare
it?
that.
Yeah, I saw that. Let me check. Right. Yeah, the screen saver turned on for a moment and then it was gone. So I need to use the mouse. I need to hold it. All right. So do you
Cool.
see my screen now?
Yeah, I see it now.
All
Cool. So
right.
I'll add it into the stream. And
All right. Most asked question in the last 2 years.
cool.
Um,
All right.
all right.
I'll come back at the end for some Q&A. But
Sure.
I'll leave it over to you.
So yeah, what I struggled most with is is all kind of names and abbreviations, LNURL, WebLN, what's all this, and how is this? How can I use it together, and what does it even mean, and how does it work below, and in detail. So maybe let's just jump into the first kind of thing here. So we have LNURL. And first, I want to give you the boring kind of details. So first of all, LNURL is a spec for Lightning actions, which is encoded in URL. That doesn't mean right now a lot. Maybe it's just, you can imagine it's a long string, and you might have used it before. We're going to get into this in a bit. These kind of actions can be payment, authentication, and some others. And these encoded URLs can be decoded by a wallet, and then you get a real kind of URL that you are used to and that you can work with. And what can you do with it? Well, you can do a fetch or a get request to this URL and get some more detailed info about the action that which is kind of decoded, what is encoded in this URL. Right. And all of this helps you to interact with the Lightning node, with your own or with custodial one. If you use Albi, you can use connect it with your own node or use just an Albi account. That's all the same, basically. So this is the boring details. Let me check what I have next. Right. So how does this look like? So it's encoded. It's back32 encoded, but I don't need to talk about the encoding in detail here. This is how it looks like. So you might have seen these kind of strings before. You might have seen them as a QR code. You might have copy and pasted them somewhere. and you didn't maybe even know that this is an LNURL. But this is an LNURL, and you can see it on the, I highlighted this in bold on the top left, so you also, they can look like this. There's a Lightning prefix, but then there's also LNURL written there in this long kind of weird kind of string. But this is the encoded version, and how does this look decoded? Well, if you decode it, and we're going to do this in a bit together, decoded, you see it's just a normal URL with like some parameters. The other one as well. And here you can already see that the first one has, I highlighted the action here, it's called LNAuth, and the second one is LNURL pay. So that already indicates the action of an LNURL. There's multiple kind of actions, as I mentioned before. So what do we have here? At least the main ones, or the ones that you might be used to, is like a pay request to do a payment, an authorize to log into like different applications, a withdraw to actually receive sats, and there's also like a make an invoice. And I'm not sure about the make invoice right now, but the full spec you can check here, and there's also linked below all my slides basically. You can open channels, etc., etc. But I think like the payment request and the authorization is what I'm going to focus on here right now, and it's the most used ones maybe for me. So if we talked about that this is a URL, and if you do a fetch, you get some JSON back. So what do you get actually back? How can this look like? What is an example of this? Let me check my notes here, and I don't forget anything that I might have wanted to say. Right, so this is encoded. So example is here an LNURL pay URL. If you fetch it, what do you get? You get JSON. So this is how this can look like. You see in this case, in this payment case, you see how much the server accepts as a maximum, as a minimum, the tag that indicates the main action. Metadata can be all kinds of stuff actually, and then you have a callback URL. And the callback URL is, in this case, you would actually do a GET request to it. I think I have this here on the next one. Yeah, so you do a GET request with an amount that you want to pay, and then you get send this to the server, or to the node basically, and the node will reply with like, yes, you paid, or something happened, or not enough, or whatever. So yeah, so just to like show you that this is, that we went from a kind of normal looking weird string to something that is maybe more, you're more used to looking at JSON and how this works together. So yeah, maybe after I went through all of this is a little bit clearer, and I want to repeat this again. So LNURL, what is it? It's a spec for Lightning actions. It's encoded, can have different kind of actions, can be decoded by a wallet into a URL. You can fetch this URL, get some detailed JSON info, and it helps you to interact with the Lightning node. Right, and here's also like another URL that I wanted to show that might explain these kind of strings a little bit better even. Let me just open this. Need to find the right one, not this one. This one. So here, for example, this is the bold11.org website. You can paste the string here, and then it will highlight what kind of things are in here. But that's not what I wanted to show. What I wanted to show is actually, so I showed you all of this kind of before, but now we want to do this in real life. So let's say I'm going to Stacker News. I go to login. Take some time. You can say login with Lightning. And here you have the QR code, and if you click it, in this case, Albi opens, or here you can see I have this LNURL. I copy this, I copied it. And to show you that all of what I showed is actually the real thing, I need to decode it first. I forgot to prepare this. Let me check. Fiat Jeff Playground. So this is what I'm doing every day. I'm just Googling stuff. It's called Jeff. Here. So there's a playground with all kinds of testing QR stuff. And there's also this LNURL decoder and encoder. So I can paste this here and decode it. Then I get this stack unused URL. And if I then put this into this request bin, did I copy it? Yeah, I did. And put a send here. Good. Confusing. No. So I copied this. Should work. Maybe not. So my expectation would be that here I actually get the JSON. Let me see what maybe I did something wrong here. I'm pretty sure I did this before. No. Let's try something else. Let's actually try maybe the auth here from Fearchef. See how that works. Here, this one. And let's do this here. Oh no, this is an auth. It doesn't work. This is an auth. Like, let's do something else. Oh, this is the auth. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm confusing myself here. Auth is not a good example. Let's pay something. Let's see. Where do I have a pay kind of thing? What would be the best way to do this? Maybe just Fearchef again. Let's copy this pay here. Send this. Oh, I need to decode it. Oh, now I'm confusing myself. Just a moment. Got it in a bit. So this is the LNURL, and I decoded it into the URL, and now I'm pasting this in here, sending it. Is it? Would have expected. Not sure what I'm doing wrong right now. Would have expected to get the JSON. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Not sure what I did wrong the whole time. Maybe I copied it wrong. So this is the long JSON string. Let's put this into a beautifier. Have a look here. Scroll to the left. So here you can see what I just tried to explain. So here we got the JSON back, and here we have the max sendable, the min sendable, the callback URL where you can actually pay, the tag with the pay request, and some other stuff. The spec is not like some people interpreted the spec a little bit differently. So there's some pair data, and there's the metadata I talked about, and comments allowed. But in general, this is pretty much what I showed you before. And in this case, you could like make a GET request to this callback URL and actually pay. Yeah, and I hope this kind of explains what's behind LNURL, and just to give you an idea how this actually works. Right. So, but now the question would be how to use this online, and how this actually works when we click on QR codes on a website, and then, for example, Albi opens, or some other like CBD wallets or extensions. And that brings me to the next topic, which is the basic kind of thing is the lightning address. So a lightning address, if you maybe you've seen lightning addresses before, like you can register lightning addresses with different kind of providers. With Albi, you can get an Albi address. So a lightning address binds to your lightning account, and people can pay you directly with this address. And in my case, it's escapedcat@getalbi.com. And I want you to to show you how this is kind of actually working under the hood, because it also falls back to LNURL or LNURL pay eventually. So usually you have here escapecat@getalbi.com. In this case, it's username domain.com. And this translates to a URL, which is under the domain that is, in this case, domain.com. In my case, it would be getalbi.com. And under a third path, you can make a call here and fetch this. Just a moment. So you do a fetch, you get JSON back, and then we see something that we just saw before as well again, and that is just being translated, and then you're back in the LNURL workflow, and then you can pay someone. So in this case, then all of this translates into a normal LNURL. And maybe that makes Lightning addresses a little bit more clear to you. So how this actually works. So this just basically translates into like a URL, and you can fetch that and then do the whole LNURL workflow that we just looked at. Also, in 2 days, Jake from Mesh is doing a talk on this. At least it sounds like it, so this is why I put it here. So if you're interested in more details, I hope he's going to talk about this. I'm going to watch this and see if there are going to be more details about Lightning addresses and how to use them. All right. Lightning links. That's that's what I actually wanted to say earlier, but like I think I just changed the order earlier today, so I was a bit confused there. Lightning links are just basically HTML links, but they're like, yeah, they have a little bit of a different functionality. So in this case, you might know the normal links if you're a web developer. In this case here, this is a bit different because this says Lightning, and then there's a Lightning address that we just talked about. It's just an example here. And it can also look like this. You can also put a LNURL there. And the question is like, how does this actually work? Or why does this work? I cannot explain the details, but I can show you an example. So for example, here on CodePen, I created a normal link that goes to getalbi. But if you can just do this, you click on it, and then we go to getalbi. Do we? Yep, we do. And but if we switch this and we say Lightning, and we say Boomi at getalbi.com. Right, so now we switch this to a Lightning link. Is it correct? Lightning link, yep. And I click it, then Albi opens and I can do stuff here. So wallets inside the browser will kind of listen to this kind of stuff. What happens if you don't have Albi installed? I have this here, so I can just copy this here because in Brave I don't have Albi installed, for example. But if I click this, maybe that's because of Albi actually, of CodePen actually. Let me find a way. Let's, what could we do here? Maybe just use code.fun as an example. Oops. Leave this. Yeah, it's because I think because CodePen runs in an iframe, etc., so maybe this doesn't work. Doesn't matter. You just need any website basically, and can just change whatever in here. So here we have just the dev tools really, and here's paragraph, and in this case I can edit the HTML, put the link here, put a break, Now we have a click me here, and if I click this now, then because I have a Lightning app installed, I've never used it actually, but every now and then I notice that if I don't have Albi installed and Albi is picking this up, then this pops up and it says like, well, you have a Lightning app installed. Do you want to open it in this? And then I just say yes, and then the native Lightning app opens. But I haven't configured it, so I cannot use it right now, but I wanted to show you that this just works. And it might not work on all the systems. I'm not sure about Windows, but here on OS X, at least it's working. And I think that's pretty cool. So without actually adding any JavaScript or something, you can interact with wallets just like that. So you could utilize this in projects by just using Lightning links, basically. Right. So that's Lightning links. So yeah, let's go to WebLN. And so WebLN, let me check what I actually wrote down here before I talk random stuff. No, nothing too important. Oops. Starting again here. So WebLN is basically extending normal web pages with Lightning events. So you can interact with the Lightning Network on a website. And you, in short, you can trigger Lightning actions from a web page. And a wallet, for example, Albi as an extension is picking this up. And you don't need to copy and paste strings, or you don't need to scan QR codes. So you can do stuff like the login here. In this case, I don't need to copy this and paste it somewhere or scan this QR code with my wallet. I can, in this case, because this is WebLN support, I can just click it. If I know how to click. And oh, in this case, we didn't even see the pop-up. Let me clear this up so I can show you. Did this before, so it remembered it and it just logged me in, which is usually the thing you want to have. But in this case, I want to show you that if I log in here now, then WebLN is triggering and asking me to do stuff. So now I haven't been here before on Stacker News. I'm not logged in. I click on the QR code. It's WebLN enhanced. Albi opens. I say, do you want to connect or do you want to interact with this page? And I want to say, yes, I want to. And here, do you want to log in? And then I can log in. So this, in this case, the QR code wasn't even needed. Could just be a normal link. Could just be a button or whatever. And then I'm logged in with the Albi Dev account here. And now we saw this on Stacker News and they integrated it already. But I want to show you with a small example here. Don't need to read this. That this could be done with any website. Any website that doesn't support a WebLN, I could just do things there because in this case, Albi is enhancing every web page with WebLN and picks these kind of events up. So if I go to any website that doesn't have WebLN, I cannot really come up with anything right now. I guess Stack Overflow. And in this case, Albi is running here and is inserting WebLN into the page here. Don't need all this stuff here. Here. So here I could just say here WebLN because it's there. I can say oops, WebLN, and then I can it's not enabled. Wait, how did I do this before? Let me have a look. All right, sure, should work. So wait a moment. Window. WebLN. Can't. Enabled. Better, sorry. Yeah, it's not enabled, so but I want to enable it, but usually, let me check if I can do this here. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. Yeah, I'm struggling with this sometimes. I was like, maybe that's not the best way to show it, but let me check. So wait a moment. So we have a window. We have WebLN. And that is console. Let's see. So this is a provider, enables faults, and this is all good. And then usually you can, and maybe I'm just fucking doing it wrong the whole time. Yeah, well, this is what I'm struggling with sometimes, and a little bit nervous because of this. Anyway, so let's do this correctly again. Clean this out here. And so I can call WebLN enable here, and then I can enable the WebLN functionality for this page here. So in this case, as you've seen before at Stacker News, I need to connect and say, yes, I want to use connect Albi with this page here. And I say connect, and after that, I can do stuff. So in this case, now I can use all the LNURL functionality. For example, here, LNURL, and then paste any LNURL, and then Albi or any WebLN supportive kind of extension will or wallet will pick this up. So let's go to FiatChef, copy an LNURL pay string, and this one, LNURL. Paste this in here. Right. So, and if I remove the Lightning, it should work with the Lightning, I think. But in this case, well, anyway, I put the LNURL, the pure LNURL into here, trigger it with WebLN, and then Albi opens here, and I can pay the FiatChef invoice that I got here. And this can be integrated, or you can use this on your website right now. So every time you show a QR code or a LNURL, and people usually scan the QR code or copy the URL, if you enhance it with WebLN and this, you can just use these events that I just typed in here in your website or in your application on the web. And every wallet or every extension that is listening to these events will pick this up. So some people have installed Strike and ZBD and Albi, and if you then click this link, they all pop up and go like, hey, you want to do something with this? And I think that's really cool because you get rid of all this copy pasting and scanning QR codes. You can just natively use it in the browser for all these kind of things. I hope this was not too confusing and brings over the point, but you can go back to this example here. And if you have any questions, you can always let me know in the end. All right, 30 minutes. Wow, talking too slow. Last topic, LSAT. And I kind of looked a little bit like this chicken, as I do in the beginning of stuff usually. I had no idea what that even means and what does it do. And but yeah, I needed to explain it to myself, and now I'm explaining it to you. LSAT means Lightning Service Authentication Token. Authentication token, yeah. And this doesn't really help me. What does I still don't know what that actually does and what this means, but this helps me at least. So it makes the HTTP code 402 work. I don't know if you're a web developer or you do anything on the web, you know HTTP codes, you know 200, you know 500, you know 404, like success or doesn't work or something went wrong, whatever. And 402 was payment required. So it has been in the spec for a long, long time, but it was never used because of all kinds of reasons. And LSAT kind of makes this work. So let's have a look how this works in theory, and then we look at the kind of project. So you do get request to, let's say, a file that has not been paid. And this resolves in a 402, like the 402 payment required. And it comes back in the header of the call, of the HTTP call, with an invoice. This is simplified, but more or less it comes back with an invoice. And then you pay this invoice. And because of how Lightning works, at least this is how I explain to myself. I don't want to go into this pre-image now. You can look this up later. You pay this invoice. And once it's paid, you do a GET request again to the URL, and with the proof that you actually paid it. And then you get the real file. So this is the theory. And maybe that's a little bit too confusing. So let's have a look at an example. And I have an example here, because in our recent kind of hack, sometimes we do hack days, Boomi and Quinton built this kind of LSAT example. It's just an example, so it's not, we called it, first it was called Instagram, then it was called Nakafoto. And it's a pretty crappy app, but it brings over the point. And it's just a proof of concept, really, to show you how this works. So let me make this a little bit bigger, and let's find an example. I don't want to spend 100,000 sets now just for the fun of it. So let's go to accounts. And maybe I have an albidef account here, and not all images are already paid. I hope there's one that is not. Oh, here we go. So here's a blurry image. So let's have a look, and that's just the source of this image. The source of this image is just blurry, right? And if I click this now, you see here, maybe this is too small. Let me make this actually bigger. And we don't really care about this image anymore. We care about these kind of things here. So here it says 402 payment required, right? And let's have a look at the headers. We don't need this really. So, and I guess in here. So in the headers, we have a www authenticate kind of entry. And here it says LSAT. And then there's something called, it's a macaroon. It's an enhanced cookie in a way. Might not be 100% correct, but like it's something like that. At least this is how I'm going to explain it to myself. And here, there's an invoice, right? And this is just a normal invoice, a normal Lightning invoice. So this pops up, comes back, and then Albi opens in this case, and I can say, yep, I want to pay this. And then I'm going to, wait a moment, can I clean this up here and pay this. And now I get a 200. And I also, this file is not blurry anymore, right? So, and here Let's see if we can see this here. Here again, I have this authorization LSAT, and here I can see. Yeah, I'm actually cannot really explain what I'm seeing here right now. But you see the difference, right? I mean, before we got a 402, we got an invoice, we paid it, and here we get the full image. Let's have a look if I forgot anything that I wanted to mention, maybe. Where's the? Here's the presentation. No, there's more explanations in these links below. So if you're interested in the details, you can check this. And also we have this is open source. This proof of concept, you can find it on our GetAlbi GitHub repository, and I can also give you the link to that in a bit if you're interested. But if you search in the repositories for LSAT, you're gonna find this. You find the backend, and also the front end is there. And I think that's pretty much it. What now? Yeah. So if you have questions, I didn't see any questions in the chat because I just saw this screen here. Let me know if something was unclear because I stumbled. Let me know. I think I can clean this up. Build things. If you already have projects that currently use LNURLs or QR codes, enhance them with WebLN. It's just one function, and it makes it much easier for the user to interact with any application that you might have. And yeah, if you are interested in Albi and you want to contribute, let us know. We get you started. And Ed, I think then that's it, really.
Cool. Hey, that was awesome.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I struggle a little bit in between. It's always like you try to prepare, and then during the thing you notice that you're nervous, and you're like, oh fuck, this is not working. But I think I hope I brought over the point at least. Yeah. And
no worries.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
You're not the definitely not the first to do a live coding demo that hasn't gone entirely to plan.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we actually had Quentin did one on Kubernetes a couple of weeks ago, and I think he ran into some issues as well. But I mean, that's also kind of also fun to watch people coding live and running into issues and unblocking themselves.
Right. Yeah,
It's
this is just
high
reality.
risk, high reward, you know. So
Right. Yeah, this is just basically what I'm doing all day. It's like you struggle and you notice, oh, stuff is not working, and you notice it's just yourself being stupid again. And so this is just what we saw basically. Yeah. But that's okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Nice. I mean, day in the life of an Albi engineer, right?
Well, I'm just doing this for 4 months now, so yeah. But getting there. Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah. Of course. We actually had one question right at the end there from Infinitress, who said, what are you passing in to the authorization header? Is that the pre-image of the invoice?
Right. Yes. So let me go back to my slide. I'm not sharing. I know. I'm just reading this up again. So yeah, if you know what a pre-image is, my explanation to myself, and I'm not sure if that is according to the specs, is so if you pay an invoice, something, you get the pre-image, and with the pre-image, if you send this to the node, you can prove that you paid it because only you know the pre-image. I'm not sure if that is 100% correct, but that's at least how I'm explaining it to myself currently. And so if you pay the invoice for this blurry file that we just saw, you have the pre-image, and you send this along with the header with the next request when you ask for it the second time to say, hey, here, this is the proof that I paid it, and then you get the non-blurry file. I hope that makes this a little bit more clear.
Yeah, this was actually a point that I was gonna bring up, was this sort of issue of pre-images. I mean, you mentioned them in your talk. We sort of just asked about them as well. And just really the question of why pre-images are quite important, particularly for sort of web applications, because like you said, right, there's this two-way communication
Right.
between the person who is issuing the invoice and the person paying the invoice.
Right.
And especially when you have a web application. So for example, with Bolt Fun, we rely on receiving pre-images back in order to then update the UI of our web app. So for
Right.
example, if you are hitting a like button or a boost button or whatever it might be, or even if it is a I guess even if you have a paywall or something like that, whatever it might be, if the user has to settle an invoice, in order for the web application to react to that action that the user has done, they need some sort of confirmation of the payment. So on Bolt Fun, people can hit a like button, but obviously a like is also a sort of one sat invoice. So in order for us in our UI to sort of increase the like counter from 1 or from 0 to 1 or 1 to 10 or however many it is, we kind of rely on that pre-image. So I'm not sure if you're an expert on pre-images, but I was wondering, if you know of any ways kind of around them. I had this idea a while ago of trying to have some sort of like public repository of pre-images that can sort of be like automatically shared by wallets and things like that. But it's obviously a good use case for Albi. It's one of the reasons why it's so great to have Albi living in your browser, is because it can sort of solve that image of pre-images for you, right?
Right, because it can talk to the node and see if this really happened, basically. I'm not an expert in this case that I can tell you if that's a good idea or not. I do not know. I think it's in the LSAT in the LSAT kind of proof of concept. I think it's interesting because there's no interaction whatsoever with any QR codes or LNURLs that you see in the UI. You just basically click, the HTTP code tells you, oh, you have to pay. You pay it, and then you get the full image. And this just happens because of the pre-image in the header of the HTTP call. So I think that's kind of the interesting use case there. But to be honest, this is during this presentation, this is kind of where it at least clicked for me a little bit more with the pre-image. Before I was still like a bit confused. Yeah. But it makes sense. Your explanation is interesting, is good. Your example is good for like every time you do a like and you just pay one sat, you need to know, has this been paid and how can someone prove that it was paid? And that's the pre-image then, yeah.
Right. I mean, essentially it's a payment receipt, right?
Right.
That's kind of the way that I think about it.
That's a good,
but it's
good way
particularly
to
for web
say.
applications, it's really important for them to receive that receipt.
Right.
Or any type of application. So yeah, and another question I have for you is, obviously, like we spoke a bit about a few different sort of specs there. We have obviously LNURL, WebLN, LSATs. They provide lots of different ways for people to interact with applications, or sort of even sort of communicate over the web. Are there, you mentioned a few months ago as well, you were a bit of a headless chicken when it came to kind of learning about some of these things and getting introduced to them and being quite new to them.
Right.
I'd be really interested to hear your perspective as a developer who had some sort of prior experience then coming into the Lightning space.
Right.
What was your experience with some of these specs? Were some easier to grasp than others? Do you find some a little bit more intuitive to build with? Without necessarily naming favorites here and there. What was it like as a new developer coming in? Because I think we probably have quite a few new developers who are wanting to come into the space and sort of get onboarded into building with Lightning, particularly web developers. And I think it's good to hear some of your feedback on that experience. I'd be kind of interested to hear that.
Yeah, I think for me, mostly it was like, how do I test things without doing a real payment? And that turns out to be not that easy, because a lot of testing setups you don't get all the examples all the time. So apart from, let's say, Starblocks, which is the Starbucks online coffee buying service where you can spend testnet coins, there's not much that I used for actually using testnet stuff. And And then the other thing is, where do I find concrete examples in one place? And then that's just the Fiat Jeff background that we playground that we just saw. That was very helpful to me. Grasping the concept of WebLN in the beginning was confusing, because I know you can create your own events, but I feel like, at least in the normal web development kind of world, you don't do that a lot. In that you inject your own events and you create applications that listen to these own events. It usually, when you write a web app, everything happens in the browser with the normal stuff that you're used to. And in this case, interacting with a third party, is it an extension or a wallet or whatever, that was kind of new to me, and I needed to understand how this works. So that Albi injects WebLN into each site to make this work, that took me some time, I think. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Like you said, I think when you first start out with some of these things, the most useful thing to have is kind of just a playground where you can test and you can experiment and you can learn from other people. So that obviously seems like a good one. I guess one of the advantages of Lightning is that obviously you can do such cheap microtransactions that it essentially becomes like a form of testnet when it's really there's very low risk in funds, unless you're obviously opening kickstarting your own node and opening channels. If you can rely on other infrastructure for that, then actually you can kind of do it in quite a low cost way, even just with Lightning, which is great. It's very accessible, but obviously there's still sort of some form of onboarding. You did mention, obviously, Albi interacting with sites and stuff, and actually saw an interesting message that came through from someone who's working actually on a privacy-focused project. He's sort of just asked, what is actually happening in the browser with Albi? Are there any sort of privacy implications of having Albi downloaded in my browser? What sort of information is it taking from the sites? Is there any light you can kind of shed on this for people?
Well, so we don't have any analytics or anything like this. So there's not like that Albi knows what you're doing. Everything that, if you connect your own node and you enter your macaroon there, everything is stored locally inside your browser. So it's not stored on any server or something, unless you use an Albi account, because then you sign up with Albi, and then it's that you use a custodian account on our server, but we still don't know what you like. There's nothing that we know what you're doing with this,
Sure.
or which site you visit or whatever. But no, like if you connect your own node, then everything is local and everything is in your browser and it's encrypted. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Cool. So for example, if let's say I'm on a website like YouTube, and I see a video like this, and maybe there's a Lightning address in the description, essentially all Albi's doing is kind of just searching the page for a Lightning address, rather than knowing what you're watching and taking a lot of that data, right? So
no, exactly. Yeah. No, we just try to enhance it. So well, Albi is on certain pages, on all pages, but on certain pages we know where to expect Lightning addresses, like on GitHub, on Twitter, usually Lightning addresses are in, like, let's say, the bio, and on YouTube it can be on several places. And what we're also trying to do is that in the future, if we find a Lightning address on a YouTube video or in a YouTube profile, and you click play on a video, then we might in the future have like some sort of floating button where you can say, well, while I'm watching this video, every minute, every 30 seconds, whatever you want, you pay like 1 or 10 or whatever kind of amount of sats that you want. You basically kind of stream while you're listening or while you're watching the video. But all of this is happening without any knowledge of Albi, the company. So, unless you have an account with Albi, because then we know what kind of payments are happening. But if you use your own node, that's all up to you then. Yeah.
Great. Okay, nice. Music to the ears of the privacy folks.
For sure. Yeah.
Cool. Maybe we've got time for a couple more questions. Obviously, we've got this Legends of Lightning tournament going on at the moment, so we're hoping to see people build with some of these tools. We've had sort of past hackathons, Shock the Web ones, which were obviously very web focused. What advice would you give to someone who is maybe a web developer coming into Lightning, or someone who's looking sort of just getting started and experimenting?
Right.
Yeah, do you have any words of wisdom maybe to help other developers along their journey?
Yeah, that's just me basically a half year ago. I was always interested in Bitcoin, but as a normal web developer, at least some time ago, it wasn't easy to get into the Bitcoin space, and now I think it's getting easier because there's more stuff actually happening on the web, and Lightning empowers that. So yeah, you already posted the examples from René, as a colleague of mine, the 20 Ono net examples. Like, he has a lot of examples, and he also has starter kits in his GitHub, how to start with WebLN, and there's a small kind of React project that gives you a start. And I started basically looking for open source kind of Bitcoin open source projects on GitHub, and just started to contribute in my spare time a little bit to just like see how this feels. And I think that's a good way to get into this. And yeah, and joining hackathons, obviously. Try to find other people and say, you can just say, well, I'm just a normal web developer, I have no idea. But if someone has an idea what they want to build, and they are happy that you want to participate, I'm sure you can learn a lot. Yeah. And you can always ask Albi. You can join our Slack. We are on the design Slack. If you have any questions, just join the design Slack and ask stuff. Just ask. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, I think that's a good point there, is kind of just asking for help. That's definitely one thing that we've learned with Bolt Fun over the last few months, is that the more you ask for help, the more likely you are to get it.
Sure.
And I think that slowly the Lightning space and the Bitcoin space is kind of opening up. We're really trying to push for more sort of docs and resources, and that good one which we mentioned in the comments there, which is the 20 Uno, which is René's. That's really fantastic. And he actually did one for the last hackathon, which was kind of sort of a package for people to basically get started, a bit of a web app template. And obviously, the more that these things come out, the more people are going to be able to experiment with them, and the more they'll get created. And there's just this really good sort of positive feedback cycle. Finally, we always kind of put everyone on the spot right at the end. Are there any apps or tools or anything that you hope to see maybe get built during this Legends of Lightning tournament? It can be absolutely anything, just Lightning or Bitcoin related.
Well, I mean, like, we teamed up with people working on something, so I'm not sure if I should talk about this kind of stuff. So because it's biased, obviously. So I'm looking forward for that. And no, apart from that, I'm curious about all kinds of stuff that can be built, and I think it's also interesting to see if people come up with ideas that they sometimes already think about. Okay, can I monetize this in any way? Because if you build something that will constantly make you a minus, that is an interesting experience. But if you think about, okay, is there any way somewhere where I can make a few sats to actually just pay the server or something, I think this is quite valuable, because then you're already on the right track to make more out of this, I guess. So that's kind of exciting.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much. We always really appreciate your expertise and coming in and talking about sort of Lightning on Web.
Thank you for having me and for giving me the chance. Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, we hope this was informative for people watching. It is obviously recorded, so people can kind of catch it on playback. If people want to find you, obviously you mentioned that some of the Albi team are in the Bitcoin Design Slack. Again, we'll sort of drop that in the show notes. Where can people find you? Are you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter with Escaped Cat. Also, if you want to contribute to Albi, we have some issues that are tagged with good first issue, and we were going to support you if you just say, hey, I would like to try to do this. We support you and we help you to get you running, get you started, and yeah.
Perfect.
That's good.
Well, yeah, if you want to be a success case like yourself, going from 6 months ago, no lightning experience, now you're working at Albi.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
really
Yeah.
got it. So go check out the Albi GitHub and check out some of those good first issues.
Yeah.
But
Being
yeah,
nervous in the talk. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks again,
All right.
man, and we'll catch you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Great. See ya.